Welcome back. Today we're diving into something sacred, sensitive, and deeply human: religious guilt. Before we begin, I just want to say this loud and clear that this episode is not about shaming any religion or any belief system. It's about making space for the people who have been hurt, silenced, or shamed in the name of something that was supposed to offer them love and belonging. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, you're never good enough in your faith? Maybe you were told that questioning your beliefs meant you were lost. Maybe you were raised to believe that there was only one right way to live, and somehow you just don't fit that mold. Maybe you're divorced, spiritual, but not really religious, or maybe you're just exhausted from trying to follow rules that no longer make sense to you. That guilt, that ache, that whispers, you're bad, you've strayed away, you've disappointed whatever higher being, your family, your friends, your community. That is what we're going to talk about today. And if you've ever felt that, you're about to find out that you are not alone. So our speaker is going to be Ms. Carolyn, and she is going to share her story with us. And I think that a lot of us can relate in some sort of way. So please just take a listen, and here she is. I'm Allie, and thank you for being on today. So I'm really excited about that. So today we're just going to talk about the religious guilt that you were feeling, maybe still feel, and that's totally all right. I think everybody goes through that at some point in their life in some sort of way. So if you don't mind, could you tell us a little bit about your religious upbringing?
I grew up in a Black church, surrounded by strong women of faith, and the what I saw was women that never showed their emotions, but that was also due to the community. In the Black community, uh, what goes on in the house stays in the house. Things were swept under the rug, so I didn't see emotions expressed. And that's why I I did the same thing. And even to this day, it's very hard for me to show my emotions. So because of the background, the background as far as community and church, it was pretty much just serving God and not surrendering to Him.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can see how that would definitely carry on in any part of your life, even to today, especially if you were surrounded by that.
Mhm.
Um, was there a certain point of time where you started to feel that guilt sort of creeping in because maybe you were thinking or feeling differently than what you were actually seeing?
As far as I can remember, guilt was always a part of my life. I carried guilt simply from just existing in pain. Like some of my struggles made me uh, feel less like I was faithful. But as I got older, the guilt deepened uh, to the point where feeling anxiety or depression. So yeah, guilt goes back even to a little child because then I grew up where children were seen and not heard. So I grew up feeling unloved, unwanted, and unheard.
Right. So then you're going to church and hoping to have that community to maybe hear you or feel you or see you, and you're also not getting that there. Um,
Hmm.
so obviously you probably did not feel supported at all, and I can't even imagine how that would feel as a child. Um, so did your relationship with yourself change during that time, either whether when you were a child or as you were growing up and you still felt that way?
Uh, my relationship, the only thing I knew was pain. I just knew that a child should stay in their place. So it didn't change, it just remained.
Okay.
even though, when you're a child, you don't even know how to describe what you're going through. You can't even really comprehend it. So all I knew was child trauma and a lot of grief. Um, but again, that carry over into the adult life.
Right, right. Okay. So you mentioned a couple of feelings, um, being quiet, having that grief, that guilt. Were you ever angry or at, I can imagine being angry at everyone if I felt that way all the time. I don't know if that's just me or
Yes,
uh,
anger was a big part of it. There was anger at people in general, specifically my family. There was anger for me, myself. There was anger towards God, because I kept going to church and hearing about this big God, and it's like, why don't you keep me from some of the pain that I was enduring? I experienced quite a number of SA acts. Um, and so I was angry at family because they didn't protect me. So anger, fear, shame, those were the biggest parts of my emotions.
and just kind of going off of what you just said, were you able to speak to anybody about those things that were happening to you? Or did you try, even though you knew maybe it was the way of just being quiet and doing what you're supposed to?
I
No.
didn't, because again, that was the norm, that was my community. And when you see other children try to express their emotions, you saw what they got, and it's like you didn't want any of it.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay. So now that you're an adult and you've grown, have you has any of that changed for you? Has your view on your community or your relationship with God or even maybe your relationship with yourself or your family, has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? Where have you kind of gone for yourself to make yourself who you are today as an adult, where you don't have to worry about other people taking care of you because now you can do it for yourself?
Mhm. Oh yeah, things have totally changed. I learned about mental health and its resources. I first came in contact with it during my freshman year of college. Not that I just took it and ran with it, but as time passed, I began to deepen my relationship with the Lord. Again, instead of serving Him, I learned to now surrender because I realized it's a deep relationship. Uh, so I started my spiritual relationship or deepening my spiritual relationship with Him, as well as the journey of recovery. And because of those things, I've made peace with my past. Um, and when it comes to my community, that's what we know as far as resilience, bouncing back. And so, because of that, that's why I'm now a mental health and emotional health advocate. I am a Christian life coach. I am an author, and I make it a point to tell my story to let other women know that they do not have to remain in the shame and the fear and the guilt or the shadows of it, that your pain, there is purpose. We're all born with a purpose. And that's another part of my discovery, that I was born with a purpose. And so the things that I've endured, God can use those things. And that's exactly what I'm doing now.
That's awesome. That's really wonderful. And honestly, congratulations to you. That's a huge thing, a lot of people can just really be overwhelmed and overcome with those emotions, especially if that's all you knew.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to just continue to follow that path. So good on you for, reaching out, and I'm sure, you've done a lot of great things, it sounds like. So, um, I think that, this is
a conversation that needs to be had because there are a lot of people. For instance, I'm Catholic. I was brought up Catholic, um, but I'm Catholic because that's what I was brought up as, right? I know what the Bible says. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know it's bad. I know it's wrong. Um, and it's kind of just like one of those things people just do it because that's what they know. And it kind of sounds like that's unfortunate for you. That's kind of what happened. Are you still in contact with that religious community or have you branched away from them?
Well, I'm originally from Helena, Arkansas. So I moved, my mom moved me up to Memphis when I was like 12 or 13 years old. But nevertheless, the Black church is the Black church. And so um, I endeavor to help change the mind of the Black church. I let women know, specifically the Black women in the church, that your silence, regardless of what's going on in your life, it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of your health in general, because what's going on in your emotional state, your mental state, it comes out of your physical. And so the good thing is now that it's more accepting the mental health space and its resources, but there's still, people out there that think you can pray things away, and that's just not it. Faith without works is dead. And so I know that we need to be the example that we want to see in the world. And so that's why when the Lord blessed me to start on my recovery healing journey, I got to a point where he's like, okay, it's time to tell your story. And so if I can just get one woman to realize that she does not have to remain in that state to be brave enough to start the process, that there is life on the other side of trauma.
Yeah, that's a really great thing to take away from. I know that a lot of people who go through trauma, especially women, they're afraid of who they might upset, who they might lose. Um, so, can you explain a little bit about that? When you finally took that step, were you scared to lose your family, maybe friends? That community that even though maybe wasn't quite right, it still is a community and it is still what you know.
Mhm.
How were you feeling when you were like, I'm gonna do this and I'm probably gonna make some people mad?
Well, the I remember when the Holy Spirit told me to go into therapy consistently, because prior to me, I was just inconsistent. I didn't know that becoming an author of a book was part of my journey, but the Holy Ghost reminded me that that's what he told me when in my early 20s. And I was like, oh my goodness, you forget those things, because I was a single mother. And when you are a single mother, you just live to get through the day. You're not caring about the future. So once I was obedient, um, with going through the journey of my recovery, I was also on the same journey as far as my spirituality. I was deepening my relationship with the Lord, and that was learning to say yes. And that's where my signature talk came out of. I broke up with fear. And it's really the spirit of fear. And so not only is that a declaration, but it's a daily thing that you have to do. You have to literally break up with fear. So another thing I say is faith over fear. You have to choose your faith over fear every day. And so once I did the 1 year of consistent therapy, then I met a lady that was a publisher, and I didn't know she was a publisher. So once I told her the things that the Lord had brought me through, the things that the Lord blessed me to accomplish, she was like, oh my God, where is your book? And I'm like, I'll get to that in about 5 years. And she just laughed like you did. She was like, no, ma'am, you're going to write this book now. And I'm like, no, ma'am, we're not going to do that. And she was like, why not? And so, of course, when you don't know the process of something, something new, you normally shy away from it. So I was like, I don't know the process. I know it's expensive. I know it's long. And so she began to tell me that If I can make the process easy for you, would you do it? So I did. So the thing was, 3 times I drew back. The first time I drew back, the Lord said, "You have a story that must be told." The second time I drew back, he was like, "If you don't tell it, nobody would know it." The third time I drew back, my baby sister said that, she said, "Are you trying to, she said, are you trying to hurt anybody with your story?" And she just asked me these questions. I was like, "No." She's like, "Well, you earned the right to tell your story." And so a few weeks after that, the book was on Amazon, and the name of the book is called "God, Why Did You Save Me?"
Wow.
And yeah, and so the
That
thing
the
that's a
question.
deep yes. And I had a number of people to ask me, why did I name the book that? And I just was obedient. The Lord is the one that gave me the title. And but so many people asked me that question to the point I had to go back to the Lord. It's like, why did you? And it turns out that that was the question that an 8-year old, from a little soul of an 8-year old, that persistently asked God, why did he save me out of the house fire that 2 of my siblings perished in? Because prior to me being 8, my nightly prayer was, "Lord, let's let me die in my sleep." So that's just, so when you are a child and you're experiencing trauma, you don't know how to verbalize it. You don't even know how to, to comprehend it. You just know that you just want an escape.
Right. Right. And I think that is a very powerful uh, book title. I mean, I personally, I had 3 people very close to me pass away. It was 2-week increments. So, um, and I remember saying, like, what did I do to deserve this? What did I do to you to deserve this? And in those moments, you just don't. It's just, and I was an adult. I mean, it was just very humbling to me once I realized, like, actually, like, that was he was not punishing me. I didn't do anything to deserve that. But when you're in that moment, those are the questions we ask.
Hmm.
So I think that that is a great title, and I'm definitely going to read that. um, so you wrote a book, you went to therapy, which good on you too, because that is a huge barrier also. Personally, myself, I always say, finding the right therapist is like dating, because for a while I was going to therapy because I knew that I needed it, but I was like, maybe I just am not made for therapy. Like, maybe this is not for me. And it turns out I just wasn't speaking to the right person. Now that I have gone somewhat consistent, I need to be more like you. Um, it's it's really amazing how different it is, and how I thought that I didn't have any feelings. I thought that I knew, how to handle what I was feeling, and I didn't want to talk about anything because I got it. And now I'm like, hey, you want to hear what happened? And I'm like, I was never like that. So I think even just realizing that going to therapy consistently can be an easy, not easy, but uh what is the right word? A close first step, that all of us can at least get to. We don't have to write a book to be healed. We don't have to do anything. It's just simply talking to people. So you wrote a book, you're going to therapy, you're speaking to the community, hopefully changing people's minds, because it sounds like it's something that definitely needs to change. And what else are you doing?
Well, besides that, I am consistently uh, being a guest on podcasts, because I'm still breaking up with fear in my life. Like, for instance, when you experience trauma, especially as a child, you're used to hiding. So I learned to wear a mask, perfect wearing a mask. I turn inward. So it's easy for me to talk to other people, like ask them how are they doing or how they feeling. But then if you ask me how am I feeling, I may have one word with you, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I'm learning, even now, to learn to verbalize my emotions effectively. Um, and so uh, I just started back therapy because when you on your recovery and spiritual journey, that doesn't stop. It's a journey. And so having a therapist um, is not just for those drastic moments. You may have stressors, triggers. And if you are deemed the strong one in your circle, you may not have anybody that you can talk to. If you can talk to someone or have one or two people in your circle because you're deemed the strong one in your circle, you may not come clean with the people in your
Mm-hmm.
life. Unlike your therapist, who is not attached to your life, you can just bear it all and not worry about being judged. So I
Right.
tell people right now, finding a therapist it can be a long haul, but start now while life is calm, and some help is better than no help. So until you find the right therapist for you, still find someone who, um, so someone that is licensed, because a lot of times we don't want to see a therapist, but it's beneficial. And the journey of healing and recovery is not cute. It is not cute. It's a bumpy ride. It's a messy ride. So it's messy, but it's necessary. And if you're going to get to the other side of this mountain, you got to go through it. You got to go through your go through.
Right. Right. I like that. It's messy because it is every aspect of life. Even if you're having a good life on, people's terms, they're still messy. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter.
Hmm.
And it's hard.
It
So,
really is.
um, and then I just like to circle back to your book. Would you be okay with maybe telling us a little bit about it? Don't give it all away because I want everyone to be intrigued so that they go get it. Um, and then you also mentioned how you have like a conversation about fear and how to get over fear. So if you're comfortable, if you could kind of talk about a little bit about the book and then maybe like a little bit about how you speak about how to get over the fear, because I think everybody has fear. I don't care who says they're not afraid of anything. You're afraid of something.
Mhm. I do agree. The book is 7 chapters. The name of the book is called God, Why Did You Save Me? It is on Amazon. And it's a snapshot of my life, of the things that we already talked about. Childhood trauma, experiencing SA between the ages of 4 and 6, later being assaulted again in high school. Um, During that time, I was born to a teenage parents. They were 16. So, teenage parents, they know nothing about parenting. So my grandmother raised me. I grew up literally hating my mom because, when you're a child, you just see things the way you see them. You don't see that your parent is going through. And so I grew up hating my parents. I grew up, I think I was in the 6th grade, and I remember looking out of the window saying, um, I want to go to college. I want to become an accountant. And I wanted to learn to speak well and write well. Those are the things that in my little mind, I said. And I equated, later on, I realized that I equated becoming an accountant with money because there was so little of it when I was little. So I lived in lack then. And so at the end of the book, with all the turmoil, the grief, the loss, that I experienced. I lost three siblings. It was six of us. I'm the oldest of six. So when you're the oldest, you have to take care of the siblings. So I had lost three siblings. The last two perished in the house fire that I mentioned earlier. And later on in my life, early 40s, I remember starting my relationship, truly deepening my relationship with the Lord. And I remember hearing the Holy Spirit tell me, look at your mother. He said, no, look at your mother. And it was like he took the veil off my eyes. I saw her in the spirit. I saw the way that how she was responding to, me and other things. And the Lord allowed me to see me in her actions. And I knew that the way that she responded is how I responded because of the child trauma, because of the SA. And at that point, my heart began to melt because it's like, oh my word, she must have experienced something like what I did in my childhood.
Right.
And so my heart began to melt. And uh, this within the last year of her life, our relationship it broke. The feelings that I had towards her, God just melted my heart. And because of the realness, because of the honesty that I had with the Lord and the honesty that I told her, it mended our relationship. And not too many months after that, she passed. But the Lord showed me that because of my honesty with her and the Lord, it gave her peace when she was ready to go. So I tell people now, forgive your parents because they they did what they knew to do back then.
Right.
And and forgiveness doesn't mean that you're forgetting, you're excusing what happened to you. Forgiving is releasing you.
Yeah. That's very powerful. And you're
And
right. We don't have
yeah,
any idea what our parents, went through, especially as a parent myself now. Um, I was like, oh, wow, I get it.
my signature talk is I broke up with fear. My signature phrase is your purpose is greater than the pain. And that phrase alludes to the pain that you had to endure as a child or even a young adult. And fear keeps you from discovering who you are, your purpose. Fear keeps you from even developing close relationship with people. Um, One of the things that I'm digging deep in fear. There's a emotional fear that keeps us safe, and then there's the spirit of fear that stops you in your track. When you allow the spirit of fear to consume you, you will not take any opportunities. You will not accept any opportunities. Your relationship with the Lord is basically cut off because whenever the Lord asks you to do something, it's out of your comfort zone. So that's the thing. I lived in a little man-made box, for me because um, we call it our comfort zone, but it really becomes our prison. The fear is like the shackles around your ankles and your wrists, and it's also a prison guard. You will not venture outside your little box, regardless of how desiring that thing is, because you know what you got over here. The fear of the unknown keeps you from venturing out. So my framework for helping people release fear is I call DARE, DARE. Decide that you no longer won't allow fear to take over your life. A, for acknowledging. Um, you acknowledge that you have fear in your life, and then you have to look for the root of it. Where did fear begin in your life? R means reframing your thoughts. We have fear-based thoughts, but if we reframe them, like for instance, my thing is I was never enough. a rethinking sentence is I'm learning to be who I need to be. I'm in the process of learning, however way you want to frame it. And E means to execute, execute faith, execute um, your walk. So if you're too afraid to step out, to, I would say, if you want to get a job, but you're too afraid to make the call, then you find one little step and do it. So that's my DARE program in a nutshell. Dare to break up with fear. But you have to make a decision. If you don't make the decision, you're still going to stay stuck where you are. And when you look up, it'll be another 10 years have passed you by. What helped me to make the decision to come out of fear was a little story that I heard. It was like, where's the richest place on earth? It turns out it's the cemetery. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, why is it the cemetery? And it's because many people died with fear gripping them to the point where businesses were not started, uh, dreams and aspirations and goals, and even purpose. You do not venture out to get any of these things in your life. So people live in fear, and they die with it. And it's like, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So breaking up with fear, it will cost you to have to let go, and actually cost you to have to face the lies that has been spewed on you, or you began those lies that you began to believe about you.
Yeah. And that's hard. Just thinking about that is scary. I mean, because sometimes you don't want to know the truth, right? But they always say the truth sets you free.
It does. But that's why I hugely, hugely tell people, if you've experienced anything traumatic in your life, find you a therapist, because and you need the tools that they're going to give you. Not only that, strengthen your relationship. So if you are a believer, not just a Christian, they're supposed to be one and the same, but it's such a negative connotation on Christian now. I started saying that I'm a believer. And to me, a believer is someone that walks closer to the Lord and actually is obedient to the word. And so, and then you have to know your why. What is your why to seeking therapy? Why do you want to start on your healing journey? Because you're going to need every piece of why and muscle and tools that you're going to need, because like we said earlier, the recovery journey is like the streets of San Francisco. It's just up and down, because you're going to need it. It's going to be a many days you're going to want to walk away. It's going to be a many days that it's draining, but that's because that wound that you've been carrying around, they have to go in there and dig in there. You're going to have to regurgitate all those lies that was told to you or you started to believe.
Right. Wow. Well, thank you very much for sharing all of that. And that's pretty much what I want, this for. Um, I think, even though my story is different from yours, I could relate to a few things that you did say. And, hopefully when this comes out and everybody can hear it, I'm sure you will reach plenty of people. And I hope that just at least one of them says, you know what, she's right. Or, you know what, I'm glad that I'm not the only one feeling that way or who went through that. Because I think that's a big thing we hide, because I don't want you to know. When you said I'm also the oldest child, so you have to take care of your siblings, and you, just like being a parent, you don't want them to know how you're feeling. I am the strong friend. That's just how it is. And you're right. Sometimes they forget about the strong ones because we are the strong ones. And we don't let that show because that's just how we are, right? So I guess another takeaway is check on your strong people.
That's it.
They might need you.
That is definitely it. That's and that's why I created the listening sessions. And the listening sessions were born out of what I wished I had. Just someone to listen to you. There's a difference between listening and hearing. When you are hearing, you can be multitasking. You hear a person just enough to respond. Compared to listening, you're in the moment with that person. You're validating who they are, you're validating their emotions. And when you're listening, a true listener, and I call it my superpower, a true listener will not interrupt you, will not judge you, will not try to fix you, will not just throw a Bible verse on it. And so that's why I'm known as the professional listener also. And so the listening session is specifically for those who are deemed the strong one in their circle. And it's also uh, created for those people who want to start the healing journey, recovery journey, but they still have such a negative thought towards therapy. And so to me, that's like an entry point to start your recovery. Just finding someone who will listen to you is a big help. So I offer the listening sessions as a starting point, and I purposely and intentionally connect to therapists. So so one thing that I've learned that you are the expert of you. And so if you get to the point where you're talking things out and you realize, well, maybe I do need to see a therapist. At that point, it's like, here, I give you a resource when you're ready, because what I want to do is put the ball in your court so that you can no longer keep saying, because of someone else, I wasn't able to do it.
And how can people reach out to you if they would like to speak with you or talk to you or anything?
Social media, Carolyn J. Murphy, Facebook, LinkedIn. The name of my business is called Firm Foundations Community Outreach LLC, or Firm Foundations, capital C, capital O. So I have an Instagram and TikTok page with the business name, and then Facebook and LinkedIn, it's Carolyn Murphy or Carolyn J. Murphy.
Wow, that is religious guilt in its rawest form. And here's the wild part. Sometimes the guilt doesn't even come from God, and we just heard that in the previous story. And sometimes I think we just need to really, take a step back and listen to ourselves. This guilt can come from people we thought were close to us. We thought that we trusted, we thought would support us through the best and the worst times of our lives. This guilt can come from fear from disappointing your parents, your pastor, your friends, your community that you thought you belonged to. It can even come from the silence of you feeling that maybe you don't belong, or when you finally start to take that step to live the life differently compared to what you were always doing or how you were brought up. And, we keep that inside, and maybe people around you don't even mention anything to you, but you still feel that judgment. As we heard earlier, we need to start separating belief from fear, because love, true, deep, spiritual love, is not supposed to come with conditions. If your faith teaches you compassion, but you're drowning in shame, or if your religion says you are loved, but you're waking up feeling like you failed every single day, then it's probably time to ask, who is the guilt you're feeling really serving? Serving your God, your higher spiritual person should not make you feel bad. Yes, you can be uncomfortable because we are called to do uncomfortable things the closer that we get the deeper our spiritual relationship is. You are not always going to be comfortable. That's life. But you should not feel shame, guilt, anything like that. That is not how we were intended to feel. So the next question is how do we even begin to heal from religious guilt? We heard a lot of great suggestions earlier from our listeners who, shared their stories with us and kind of what got them back on track. But also, we need to start by giving ourselves permission to wonder about other things. Ask ourselves the hard questions. Be curious about why you're feeling this way. What else is out there? And also, you're not being disrespectful. You're growing. I recently just had a conversation that maybe if you don't believe what you're following, that maybe you should actually reevaluate why you don't believe that, or why you're still continuing to practice something you don't agree with. And that kind of really made me step back and think, do we just do things because that's how we've always done it? That's how we were taught. That's how we grew up. Even though we're not necessarily agreeing with the practices that we may or may not be doing, it's not a bad thing to take a step back and ask yourself why you're doing what you're doing. What do you actually believe? Once you do that, you find your people. It could be something as simple as changing your church, finding a support group, or even just talking to someone, a friend who won't judge you, won't hold any sort of contempt towards you when you are explaining how you're feeling. And you need to surround yourself with voices that remind you that you are not broken. Just because you are finding ways to grow, finding who you are, being curious, it does not mean that you're rebellious. It means you're growing. And again, growing is uncomfortable. You have to let yourself redefine what faith means to you. What you thought when you were 6-year-old versus when you're 30 years old is not the same. You need to figure out what faith means to you. You are allowed to create your own relationship with the divine, one that feels honest, safe, and yours. Not what you were told, not what your parents do, not what your siblings do, not what you were always doing as you grew up. What you feel is right and safe for you. It shouldn't be forced. It should be uncomfortable because it is new, because we are growing and we are finding and connecting deeper. But also, it's okay to know that if for whatever reason you think that walking away from organized religion altogether is the absolute best for you, then it is. That's your choice. You're still worthy. You're still whole. You're still sacred. That is your choice. I just want to say religion is a very touchy topic, and it can often be, something that people don't want to talk about. And this is why we do this, right? This is why I have this podcast, because you might have been feeling these feelings that you heard earlier, or even anything that I might have said. And we need to make sure that we know we're not alone. We need a way to get this guilt, this horrible self-talk out of our bodies. And if religious guilt has followed you like a shadow, please just hear me when I say you don't have to carry it forever. You don't have to earn your worth. And more importantly, you are not too far gone. You're not bad. You're not broken. You are human. You are a human being, and humans feel deeply. That's what we do here on Unfiltered Feels. We hold space for the messy, the honest, and the unspoken. All right, that's it for today. Next week, we're exploring a different kind of guilt. Guilt that comes with privilege. Thank you for being here, for being human, and for letting yourself feel. Just a reminder, this podcast is all heart, not healthcare. Please talk to a professional for medical advice. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Unfiltered Feels Podcast, and please share this with someone who needs it, or leave a review. And don't forget, the things you're feeling, you're not alone. I'll see you next time.